Okay, welcome to this webinar. Sorry about the delay. We are ready to get started, and thank you for attending this webinar that we're going to talk about all the new things in Dynamicweb 9, which is a big upgrade of the Dynamicweb platform that we released last week. So Dynamicweb 9 is one of the bigger releases in our history. It's a big update to Dynamicweb 8, and in this webinar I'm going to tell you about what the changes are and how you can upgrade from Dynamicweb 8 and up to Dynamicweb 9. And also you have the possibility to ask questions during this session. In your questions pane in GoToWebinar, you're welcome to just write questions there, and I'll take a look at them as we go along this webinar. So, but first, 2 words about myself. My name is Nicolai, and I'm the CTO, and I'm working with the development of the product Dynamicweb. So, I'm in charge of that process, and as also one of the co-founders of Dynamicweb. So first, let's take a look at what Dynamicweb 9 contains. I'll walk you through the changes that we made, and we'll shift to a demo later on. So in 2 overall terms, we have these focus areas. One is the user experience, which is the part that you as the end users of the system will work with. And we have another dedicated area of our focus, which is technology, because that's also an important part of this release. First of all, one of the biggest changes, or visual changes in this release is the new user interface. The entire user interface of Dynamicweb has been updated quite a bit. Another important part for the user experience is a new and updated documentation portal that contains information about all the features, how they work, and how you can extend Dynamicweb. And this new documentation is brand new, has been rewritten from the ground up, and has a much more focus on the everyday work and how to use the system, and not only what the system contains of fields and so on. And another thing that we spend a bit of time on in the user interface or the user experience is increased performance of editing. When you work in the administration, a lot of exciting things has happened with browsers that we utilize to give you a better performance on the editing. On the technology side, a lot of things has happening on the .NET framework, which is what Dynamicweb is based on. Some news on that, and also we introduce a system called packages or NuGet packages, which is a new way of distributing the software that will give us some benefits in upgrading and adding new features to the solution. And we're also working on some deployment tools that will ease deployment from development to production and take out some risk and some time consumed when you get new features onto your website. So, but let's first go dig into the user experience part of this release. First of all, why a new user interface? The current user interface in Dynamicweb 8 has been around since 2008 and 9, and even though it has done a great job, it's also starting to get old, and some of the concepts that has been used has changed since we introduced it. Has changed. So things like making everything a bit bigger because of the bigger screens that we have today, utilizing that most users now have a wide screen as opposed to back then where it was more common with regular screens, and also just to get a more modern look and feel into the entire application. It's a huge improvement in how it looks. Another thing we focused on is simplifying some of the tasks that you do as an editor. So instead of seeing a select box of images that you can select, you can now actually see the images. You can upload images directly from where you're using them, and we removed some buttons and changed the logic of some of the minor things in the system, all things that should simplify the task of editing your website. Also, another thing that we've seen in the past years is the emerge of a lot of devices like tablets and so on that we saw arrive from in the past 5 or 6 years. And Dynamicweb 9 also supports these new devices in the user interface more natively, so you can update your website using an iPad or something like that. And as I told you, a faster performance, the speed of administration, and also utilizing a lot of the new things that browsers can do. That means that the Dynamicweb administration also do not support old versions of Internet Explorer and stuff like that anymore, so only more modern browsers for the backend. So these are the new user interface. In the back you can see the old one current in Dynamicweb 8 and the new one in Dynamicweb 9. And of course it's a brand new look and feel. One of the biggest changes is, apart from how it looks, is that we moved the accordion from the bottom to the left side. And the reason to do that is to utilize this wide screen. Also, the tree has become a bit bigger and wider, so we can have more space on it, and also utilizing the width of screens. And you can also see there are 3 dots, which is a way of navigating with your finger instead of right-clicking with the mouse. So stuff like this has come into the administration. The overall administration interface has been rewritten, so it's much lighter and much faster than in Dynamicweb 8. And we've shifted from using heavy icons to a more lightweight approach to the loading icon. And all of these things together and a more optimized code will make the speed of navigating the administration a bit more fast. If we look at this new toolbar on your left side, it also has another important feature, that is, instead of when you navigate from one area in Dynamicweb, like the content part to the e-commerce part or stuff like that, in Dynamicweb 8 you lose your work and you reload a new screen. With Dynamicweb 9 you can basically have all of the tabs or areas open all at once. So content and e-commerce files and users, each of them has its own window and keep the state at all times. That means that you can go into a paragraph and edit some text, and you can shift to file area and start working with file without losing any work or without the need to save the work in the other area, and you can switch between both of them. So that speeds up the editing of the website if you use more than one area at a time, which many users do. And also the way that we work with the content, as you can see here, instead of just having a select box with the name of the image, you can now see the actual image. And you will also see later on with the demo that you can upload directly here to the image selector and other subtle things that will speed up the editing process. In the toolbars, we've removed some of the buttons or moved them to secondary tabs in the ribbon bar, and it's also possible to collapse the ribbon bar, so we utilize as much as possible from the screen to edit the content that we have in the content pane. And also in this screenshot you can see the navigation has been collapsed, so also again to utilize as much space as possible. The file manager has received a big overhaul with the new features, especially the upload has been simplified quite a bit. So apart from being able to upload from the content area, you can now also upload directly now without going through our upload manager as you know it from Dynamicweb 8. So when you click upload, you get the images from your computer right away, and you can also use drag and drop upload, which is one of the features that we can use from newer browsers. When you enter Dynamicweb, we have a new workspace, or what was previously known as the My page, where you receive news and reports and so on. And Dynamicweb 8, the content on this page is all new. And right now it's static, meaning that we have decided what to show on this workspace page. But with later releases you will get the ability to choose what you want to see and how you want to see it, and personalize it for different users on the system. So if you're an e-commerce manager, you can see your latest order and your revenue, and if you're a content manager, you can see things that lacks translation and stuff like that. In e-commerce, we also made some changes in optimizing working with products and orders and discounts and so on for editors. Again, with the product editing like this one, we changed how the look and feel of the product editing looks like. We've taken all the primary fields that you need to change and update during managing your products and move them up in the primary focus area of the product edit, and we've taken some other information and moved them further down. So now we focus on the product name and number and prices, description and images in a more visual way than we do in 8, which should improve the speed of which you can edit your products. I'll show you later on. The same goes for the order details. It has been giving a bigger overhaul to emphasize what is important, so you can now see the prices, how they are calculated a bit easier than in Dynamicweb 8, and all the other amounts like the price with and without VAT, and the VAT and taxes has been dimmed down a little, so it's much easier to read through a lot of orders what you're looking for. And as I also told you, optimized for tablets, or most of the administration is responsive, so you can go edit using your fingers also. So most of it is touch sensitive, and also adapts to the smaller screen area by collapsing things or by removing secondary information from the screen. So all of it fits on the smaller interface. So, but let's have a look at how this looks in real life. So if we take a look at the administration, there we go. In Dynamicweb 9, this is how it looks like, and you can see on your left side we have these areas where we can switch between more of them. Now I'm in a paragraph right here, and I can start writing some new content. And when I do that, I can, when I'm in the editing area, I switch to the file manager, and without losing any work, and you can see this is blazingly fast because we're basically having all the windows active at one time. And switching back to content, I still have the things that I'm working at. So I can go to the file manager and do some editing of an image if that's what I need. And I can work with the image while still working on the content. So that would help me quite a bit on doing various stuff. It could also be working in user management while setting up permissions in the content part and so on. So also I can collapse some of the things, so I optimize the area in which I edit my content, especially beneficial if you have big articles or items with a lot of data that we need to see all of it all at one time. Taking a look at how we work with images, I can click, and now I can see the image directly in the where I edit it, instead of having this old select box. But I can also upload new images. This is my computer, and you can see I have images that is locally on my computer, and I can add it and upload it directly on the paragraph itself, making the administration of images a lot easier than Dynamicweb 8. And the last thing, we have the action bar in the bottom where we can save and close and cancel our stuff. So in most of the places where you can edit stuff, this is how it works. So when you're done editing, you will always be able to find, without scrolling, the save and close buttons for all of this. Going to the file manager, I have images. You can see I can right click and say upload, and I get the files directly from my machine already. I can do the same from the ribbon bar, or I can also use drag and drop to move images into my file manager. So it's much more slick and intuitive that we are used to on the 8 platform, and we still have the resizing of images and generating of thumbnails and stuff like that we have on Dynamicweb 8. We can also see that it emphasizes the images I just uploaded by giving it a different color, so I can see that these are the new files that I added to the system. Taking a look at e-commerce, the e-commerce editing with the primary information on the top, like the name, product number, description, and images, also visual and with the prices and stock levels and loyalty information up in the top, and then we have all the extensive information further down, which are probably the information that is not getting edited as much as these primary information. You will also see that parts of the ribbon bar has been simplified a bit, so we don't have as many buttons and options to choose from up there. They've been moved into the user interface instead. And also, if we take a look at how new orders looks like, we have, it's the order itself is moved into the primary area, and we have shipping and billing details shown on the right, and we have all the information about transaction and currencies and order data saved on also on this screen, but further down, and also again a simplification of some of the buttons that you saw in the order up here. So hopefully a nice change of the user interface that makes it a bit easier. Another thing we did was moving the discounts and so on into to the e-commerce tab instead. In Dynamicweb 8 we have them in the management center, meaning that editors needs to go into the settings area with a lot of options. And now instead we've added the discounts, loyalty points, gift cards, and all that stuff that you would use in need in everyday use of your e-commerce solution has been moved into the product catalog itself, so we can access and add new discounts and change them without going into the management center. And the management center is now moved, called settings, and has been restructured a bit, and we've taken out a lot of the settings and moved them into default, making it more simple to configure the website. So that's a brief introduction of the user interface. Of course, there's a lot more to it. Most of the features and the fields that you know from Dynamicweb 8 are the same. It just has an updated user experience and look and feel to it, and also these improved editor capabilities. Another important part of this release is the new documentation portal, which is basically containing both the manual for how to use the system for end users, but also a bit of the technical information around implementing and so on. And instead of going through a lot of minor pages with just covering a small bit of a subject like how to create a form but not a field, all of it has been collected in these big articles that has most of the information about operating a specific function or feature in the system. So you get some very long articles, but it's much easier to find what you're looking for. First of all, we have the primary navigation on the left that is has been restructured. It's much easier to find the area that you look at, but also on your right side you can see the navigation of the article and find the area that is relevant to the things that you are working with. This documentation also contains tags documentation for templates and API for developing, which is mostly relevant for your partner that will usually take care of all of these things as well. But let's have a look at the documentation portal and how they look. I just need to go out of this. And it looks like this. You also have access to the latest releases and release notes and the note box of the various versions of Dynamicweb, which you can add on the current manuals and documentation sites. And then we have these different areas up here where the documentation for Dynamicweb 9 is the most important one. And you can see it follows the same structure as the software itself, with content, e-commerce, marketing, users, platform, and integration. So on going into content, it will walk you through the basic concepts of websites and pages, paragraphs, and so on. And let's have a look at a module like Forms for Editors. So on this page I get everything about Forms for Editors, and I can navigate out here in this long article to understand or see what kind of information is available. Most of the beginning is editor relevant, but as you go further down it gets more technical, and basically you just stop reading when you think it gets too technical. So we have implementation, development, and database details as well, so you can, if you're more technical, get an insight of how the system works. So a huge improvement and a complete rewrite of all of the documentation has been moved into this one. If we change a bit to the technology part of this release, one of the things that is happening right now is that Microsoft is making a huge change to the .NET platform. And .NET is the technology on which Dynamicweb is built, and is the programming language and framework that we use to develop Dynamicweb. And Microsoft are rolling out one of the biggest changes to .NET, or the biggest change ever on the .NET platform, and that means that we're going to see some huge technical changes in the years to come. And the reason we've taken this in this presentation is because this is of course important, and what we've done on Dynamicweb 9 is making as many changes as needed, so we are ready to get on this new platform as it arrives. So basically Dynamicweb 9 is a future-proof platform in terms of being able to convert into this new technology as it matures from Microsoft. Another thing that we do with the Dynamicweb 9 is we change the way the application is distributed, and we're going to use something called packages in Dynamicweb. And packages are a way of distributing software. And why is this important? It is because it can also give us some benefits of how we can upgrade your solution. So once you're up and running with a big e-commerce solution, and you receive a new or we see a new way of doing payments, for example. It could be Apple Pay coming to Northern European countries or stuff like that. These, when they arrive, as it is today, we need to build it into Dynamicweb 8, and you need to upgrade your entire application, all of it, to get this new feature into your system. With Dynamicweb 9, we've moved all features into separate packages. So to get a new version of a payment gateway that supports Apple Payment, as an example, you just need to update that one bit of your software instead of updating all of it. So it works kind of like the same way as you know from your phone, with an operating system and all the apps that you have on it. And you can add one app only, or you can update an existing app without updating the entire platform itself. So it's basically the same concept that we utilize on these packages. So it's based on something called NuGet and integrates into development environments, and it gives you this the same concept as you know from apps, as I told you. And benefits, of course, easier distribution of fixes and new features, and it also should take out some of the risk of updating or patching your system if there are bugs or anything you need to get rid of in your installation. So this is how it looks in Dynamicweb. You will probably not see it that much, since it will be your partner or the support department taking care of all this. But if you have an update to one specific piece of feature in Dynamicweb, it will show up in this list, and you can update it from the administration. Very simple and easy. So that's it about the general new features in Dynamicweb 9. Of course, there's a lot more that you will see during the fall and when you get on the platform. And now I'm going to talk about how to get on the Dynamicweb 9 series. So before updating your Dynamicweb 8 to a Dynamicweb 9, you can upgrade to the Dynamicweb 8.8.1.12, which will contain this small wizard or advisor that will tell you what kind of things you should be aware of when upgrading from Dynamicweb 8 to 9. Because 9 is not 100% compatible with Dynamicweb 8. There are some old stuff that are has been removed in Dynamicweb 9, and this advisor will tell you where there could be some issues in terms of doing the upgrade. And again, this is a tool that is also something you should look at with your partner to get an idea of where your solution might run into some things that need to be taken care of when upgrading. But generally, Dynamicweb 8 and 9 are compatible, so all your pages, all your content, your products, and your order history and statistics and all of that works in the same way as always. And it's mostly if you have some customization to Dynamicweb, they need to be updated, and some other minor thing if you are using some old implementation models and so on. More on this on the documentation portal, what exactly it is. And if you stay on Dynamicweb 8, now we have Dynamicweb 9, does not mean that Dynamicweb 8 will be left behind. We'll continue to support this for the years to come, because we have thousands of customers running on this platform, and just in the end of this month we have the first release of the 8 series after the Dynamicweb 9. So we're going to release an 8.9 with some new features and fixes and improvements, and you will see further service releases down the road addressing if we get some updates to payment gateways or minor features and stuff like that. But most new features will of course arrive on the Dynamicweb 9 platform. So at some point it would be a good idea to get an upgrade to the Dynamicweb 9. And just the release plan for this fall. Dynamicweb 9 final release was just released last week. We have the 8.9 as I told you. And then we have a service release to both the Dynamicweb 9 and 8 during the end of the fall, and in beginning of next year we have the Dynamicweb 9.2, which is the first major release of or major update of Dynamicweb 9, containing some new features to the system. Also during the fall we have some events. There are going to be more webinars like this one, working with Dynamicweb 9. And we will also go out and get some workshops up and running with the partners. So there you will have a possibility to meet us and some of the partners, telling about the changes and possibilities of running a Dynamicweb 9. So that's it. So for me for now. So now it's time for questions, if there should be any questions among you. You can also at any time contact us if you have any questions regarding this release, or you can get hold of your partner and ask them about how you get up on running on Dynamicweb 9. But if you have any questions, you can write them in the question pane, and I'll answer them from there on. And I have a question about the presentation, if it will be available for download, and yes it will. In just half an hour or so you'll receive an email with links to this presentation, and also a link to a recording of this session, so you can see it again or show it to others in your organization. So it will be available. That seems to be the only question so far. No, there's one more. If you have new customers, will they go directly onto Dynamicweb 9? Yeah, if you have a new project, that would be my recommendation. Just start on Dynamicweb 9. No need to go on an 8 series to this. And will links be maintained when going from developer side to doc side? We have a question there. On the forums, for example, all the links will be the same, but since every article and structure is has changed, and Google will get updated very soon. And I have a question, if Dynamicweb 9 is built on the old platform or is it totally new? I guess you're talking about the .NET platform. It's still built on the .NET Framework 4.6, since .NET Core is not fully released yet. But what we did is we made sure that the core of our API and the entire stack is not depending on the old .NET Framework anymore. So it's some user interface stuff that is still depending on the old .NET Core, and of course we'll move towards this new technology as the time goes. I have a question, if you upload a picture directly, where will it sit in the file structure? It depends on the settings, and if you're using items and a field has specified that it should take images from a specific folder, that's the folder the image will get uploaded into. So it depends on where you are and how your settings are, but it will use the folder that has been specified for that specific image field. And I have a question: if it is possible to upload content for 15,000 products directly, yeah, you should be able to do that with the integration framework. I guess that if that's what you mean, if you have data in the right format, you can import or export them using the integration framework. And I have a question: if it's free to upgrade to Dynamicweb 9. It depends on your subscription, but most users or most customers, they have a, if you are running software as a service, or if you are running Dynamicweb with the SA agreement with us, which is most of the customers, it's free to upgrade license-wise. There might be some consulting hours with your partners that is of course not free, but license-wise it's the same thing. And is there a better ability to change width of columns in backend modules to see data better and potentially add other columns to our view? It hasn't changed a lot since Dynamicweb 8, but it depends on where you are. If we take a look at the e-commerce, for example, I have a list of products like this one. I'm able to right-click and define which rows should be shown and which should not be shown, and in what order. And I can do the same on the orders view, on users view. So we have the feature already in some parts of the system, but it depends on where you are. So you can also change what information you want to see in this list. So if there are any specific things you are looking for, Catherine, you should let us know, and we'll take a look at it. Upload of 10 products at once. Is it possible with core features without integration? In e-commerce, when we are standing in a place like this, we can use this one, create multiple products, and this is a way to add more than one product at a time. And which fields are available at this point depends on which fields you included in this list. So this would be a way of adding 10 products at a time, relatively easy, and then go edit them one by one. And what is the status of the marketing module? The status is that it has been converted along with the rest of the application, and email marketing is usually or the primary area you use the automation, and it's the same features that we have in Dynamicweb 8. There's no changes in that way. So you can use things like smart searches to define your segments and search your user data, and you can use these segmentations to send out email newsletters. And I have a question: if there are custom fields added to the product catalog, would it be available for selection? And yeah, I have hide for group, or some of these fields, they are custom, so they are also available in these lists. And Toralf has a question: if you filter a list and go to an item and you go back to the list, does it stay filtered or reset like it does now? I think it's the same as it is now. But you should register this as a bug if you have a specific place where this happens, and we will of course take a look at it and get it fixed. And I have a question of customers that has been using Dynamicweb since 2004, where they have some very old stuff, and most of it has been updated, and if they can see where the problems would be when upgrading for Dynamicweb 8. If you're on Dynamicweb 7, we don't have anything where you can see what kind of errors you will get when going to 8. But if you are on the 8 series, you would be able to see the issues you will run into when upgrading to Dynamicweb 9. You should contact your partner or send us an email, and we can have a look at this with you, Henrik. And a question about if it's possible to import multiple product lines from Excel. Yes, it is. We have in the integration module, we have support for Excel files. So if you first define the format that your data is coming from, you can use an Excel to import and export your products. And EMA, yes, there is documentation on how to upgrade a custom Dynamicweb 8 solution or parts of it on the doc portal. There's an upgrade page. It might not be complete since we don't know all the things yet, but you can use that one. And I have a question about, as a newcomer, I understand from your previous answer that marketing automation is not yet available using tracing and automated response via email or pop-ups. Yeah, I'm not totally clear about what the question covers, but we have the same features available in Dynamicweb 9 as we do in 8, and we have automation for abandoning shopping carts or reacting on users that hasn't opened emails or stuff like that. So there's a lot of possibilities in automation. I can have someone contact you about that. And yeah, someone happened to see the new UI and sending regards to Brede. That's one of our sales guys. I'll let him know. And can you show us how and where to upload the Excel sheet? Yes, it's usually you need to set up an integration in here. You have data integrations, and this needs a bit of setup to set up. You set up an activity that has use an Excel provider, and in here you select a source file which is placed somewhere in your file manager or uploaded directly here. And using this wizard, you will get an integration to the Excel file where you can choose which fields to map to the e-commerce product. So this is the way you want to go. It's not completely simple always, depending on your Excel file, so you might need the help of a partner to get it up and running. And how many items you can put in that one, it depends on how much data you have in it, but you can easily, I would say, upload an Excel file of maybe 100 megabytes, but it really depends on the server and so on, but and how many records. But 100,000 records should be enough possibility using Excel files, but it might not be the most solid solution because it's a big Excel file doing like that, but it should be possible. Okay, it doesn't seem to be any more questions. There's one last question. Is it possible to import with URL to pictures? And yes and no. If you have the pictures lying on another server in a CDN or something like that, you can include the URL to the image into Dynamicweb, and Dynamicweb will just use the image on the other server. But Dynamicweb cannot download the image and put it into its own file manager and use the image from there. So the answer to the question is yes or no, depending on how you want to use the feature. You're welcome. I think that's it. Thank you for the question, and thank you for attending this webinar. It will be sent out in the next hour or so you get access to the presentation, and if you want to see some of the things again, you'll get access to that one. So thank you for attending, everyone, and talk to you later on, hopefully. Bye.